Yo, yo, beautiful people, what it do? Gene Williams here, and we are Unbreakable Souls. I couldn't do this without my partner in health and healing, my brother, Coach G. Gary Newsom. Unbreakable Souls. I couldn't do this without
What's up, my man?
What's good, brother? How you doing today?
Good, my man. I'm
Yeah,
excited about today, but me check in with you. How are you doing?
yeah, I'm good, man. Just ready to get this show on the road. I know we got a hot one going, so
We got a hot
yeah,
one, so we got a room full.
exactly, exactly.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So I'm
We
gonna
ready to go
go.
in.
I'm gonna jump right in. I just have one. My other guests weren't able to make it, so and that's okay. We just pivot and roll with it. So, um, bringing back some fire from last week.
Yeah, yeah,
AL Johnson.
right.
So come on in, my brother.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Hey,
What's up?
welcome back,
Hey, I'm
brother. How
glad
you
to be
doing?
back. What's up, Gene? How you
yeah.
doing, bro?
All is well, brother. How are you?
Oh man, can't complain. Can't complain. And guess what? It
What's
don't
up?
work anyway. Man, we just got to make it happen. So
Right,
Right.
right,
that's what it's
right.
all
Exactly.
about. What's up, Coach
Exactly.
G?
What's up, my man? I'm looking at this and I'm like, we got the three amigos rolling again, man.
Hey, I'm with it. I'm with it.
Yeah. So, Gene, bring in our next few guests, my man.
Try this. All
Thanks for
right.
being here, AL.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for being here, brother. All right.
Yes,
So we
sir.
got, I don't even know who all is in the room so far. All right. So we got, I know for sure that my mom, Stephanie Hockenhall, is in the building.
Let's bring up Mom.
Hey,
What it do, my dubs?
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the
Yeah.
Yeah,
invitation.
yeah.
Yeah, we love you being here,
Is
Mom.
it on?
Thank you. I love
Yeah.
being with y'all.
And Mom's, or
All
I should
right.
say Stephanie to be formal. This is AL. AL, this is Stephanie.
Hey, AL.
Hello, hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I saw you last week. I heard you.
So,
I was
He-
Uh,
listening.
All right, all right.
he's a powerhouse, and she's a powerhouse,
all
AL.
right.
So,
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
okay, Gene, we doing, I think D is here too.
Something happened to us, Sam. We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, bro.
I, I was stretching my neck.
We saw that.
Yes.
Like, what is going on?
Oh my word! I was like, is she alive or what?
What an introduction. So,
We can't hear
Okay.
you, Jean. Y'all, this is De'Ara and Terrence. That's Danika's sister. Danika's with Jean. We can't hear Jean. I don't know if y'all can tell that or not, but him and Danika are trying to get their sound together.
Okay.
how y'all doing?
We are
We're
blessed. We are
yeah.
blessed, and we're thankful that you are here on Unbreakable Souls. We're excited to hear your stories and stuff. So let's just, without further ado, because we've got a lot to cover today, and um, several people in the room. So we want to be able to hear from everybody, and but be expeditious with our time. So we're talking Unbreakable Souls today, men healing through strength, and we're concluding our discussion regarding trauma. We're talking about various types of trauma today from a panel perspective. So, childhood trauma, relationship trauma, race related trauma, self inflicted trauma, financial trauma, sexual trauma, and spiritual trauma. It's all trauma. So,
Yes.
we've covered over the last 5 or 6 weeks all of these individually, but we just always want to wrap up subject matter with a panel discussion. And we love to have a male and female perspective on that. So we've brought in some guests today. Before we jump into subject matter, I want to just kind of go around the room and let everyone introduce themselves and share a little about themselves. And Mom, I'm going to start with you, Miss Stephanie. Could you introduce yourself to our audience and just briefly share about what it is that you do?
Hey, everybody. I'm Stephanie Hockenhall, and I educate about bullying, something that I experience so much of and still do. I just have learned how to deal with it differently. Now that I understand what it is, for so very long, I had no idea that's what it was as an adult. So I do mental health coaching, forgiveness coaching, and all of that, and some other coaching, spiritual coaching. But everything that I do ties back into bullying and now encouraging people, helping to open the eyes of people to what they're experiencing, and then taking them on a journey of healing.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And I've
Thank
done
you.
some work with her on a couple different platforms. We're going to collaborate in some more. Some of the training experiences she's gone through, she's now shared with me, and I'm about to go through here probably beginning of August. And just so you know, Mom, AL is well versed in this space as well.
Awesome.
So for future shows for you, he would probably be a great addition to that for you. So
Okay.
just wanted you to know that.
Thank you.
Gene, is your sound back up?
No.
No, not yet. Okay, that's all right.
Muffled.
So speaking of AL, I was just talking about you, that you are a good source for Stephanie in the space that she's referencing. So introduce yourself. I know you were here last week, so the audience knows who you are, but man, what a power pack punch you brought last week. So we had to have you come back and talk on this. And then if you could just maybe speak to some of the things Miss Stephanie talked about.
Absolutely. So, there's A.L. Johnson. I'm the president of a 501c3 organization called Elevating Men. It is our goal to help men live happy, healthy, healed, and productive lives, because we believe that strong men build strong families and strong families build strong communities. That's the end
Amen.
goal. We want to bring everyone together through uplifting the man, therefore, him uplifting his family. And so, we do focus on a lot of things related to mental health. The bullying that you talked about, some of those childhood traumas carry out through our adulthood.
Oh,
Right,
It
yes.
just makes us
right.
a different person than God created us to be. And so we just seek, to really help men heal. That's an important thing to us. And outside of that, I also own a life insurance agency. I've been doing that for the past 15 years. And so when you talk about financial trauma, I've seen a whole lot of that type of devastation that comes from families not being prepared. And so yeah, we could hit any area of trauma. I'm familiar with all of them, whether it's personal experiences or somebody that I've been in contact with. But that is what I do.
Well, I know you're well versed and multifaceted in several things. So that's exciting. I'm so excited you're here. Miss Lewis, if you could grace us with your presence, with your intro, if you could let us know who you are and a little bit about what you do.
All right. Well, my name is De'Ara Lewis, and this is my husband.
Terrence Wilson.
Yeah. I didn't know how to. I bypassed the title thing. I don't know what I did, but we
Oh, yeah.
are okay. We are the owners of a 501c3 community against poverty, and
Oh,
yeah, so it deals with we haven't fully like launched it yet. We're getting some other stuff together, but it aligns up. It's about dealing with trauma with money, and
mm,
that's one of our main things that we're going to be focused on is dealing with trauma around money, which like most things, there isn't a singular trauma, where it's just isolated. You pull the layers back, it goes into some of those other types of trauma. But that's our focus, because we're entrepreneurs in California, in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive cities in the country,
it
and
is.
um, we have almost we've been at rock bottom a couple of times, and we had nobody but us to build it up. So it really required addressing money trauma, and so we want to be able to provide a foundation and resources in business owners.
That's
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
Powerful. I'm
yeah.
excited to hear more into that and have you speak into that. And I think you made such a powerful point that trauma is all multifaceted and multi layers, that they overlap one on top of the other. Um, there's probably a root cause to each person's individual trauma, but you're in most cases, especially if you're a black person or brown person, you're going to experience all, if not, I mean, one, if not all of these. So, Gene, were you able to get your sound up and down? Can
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, brother.
All
I
right,
can't
great.
I can't start the show without you talking. So before I jump into this,
Oh,
go
man.
ahead, man.
All right. Glad that we finally were connected. So, this is my beautiful lady, Danica Lewis.
Hi.
Sister to De'Ara Lewis. So, go ahead and tell everybody.
Oh, well, I'm Danica. You're kind of low. Y'all smell just low, just FYI. The what? The volume's still low. We can hear you, it's just low.
Oh, okay. I'm Danica. I'm his woman. I mean, what is it that you? Because I don't.
That's awesome.
I don't advocate. I just don't have a business of any sort in that. So, what is it that you need to know?
Sister, you are a human being and you have experience. And number one, you're a Black woman. So you have experienced all levels of trauma. So you have, it doesn't require business degrees or anything like that, or having a 501c3. You are a human being who's had life experience. So you are relevant to this conversation, as is anyone that would be in our audience today. So we're thankful and grateful that you're here.
And
Thank
you're
you.
award-winning singer and actress.
Hello. And she's always by
That's not
Gene.
what that was about. So,
And she's always by Gene's side, helping him with the yoga.
Look at Mama chiming in. Look at Mama chiming.
I'm just saying.
Fitness advocate.
But that music thing she got going on is all the way live.
Okay. It must be because you got Mom all excited. So I like that. I've seen you on a couple things too. So, well, hey y'all, let's jump. Let's get busy. Is everybody ready to get in the muck and mire and dive into this? And
Yeah.
just to throw in order, no specific order, but on my list is childhood trauma. The long-term effects of childhood trauma on mental health and well-being. Let's talk about that briefly. AL, start us out, my man.
Yeah, definitely. Our minds are like computers. We store things, and so that starts from the time that we come out of the womb. There's been studies that have shown even inside of the womb, a woman can play classical music, for her growing child, and those music frequencies actually have an effect on the child. And so when we look at that, we really have to think of what was recorded from, say in the womb and even prior to, because if, epigenetic study says that trauma can be passed down just through the umbilical cord. So
Right.
it's literally, it's literally the trauma that our parents experienced, the things that we experience in the womb, the first things that we experience as we're able to, open our eyes and see the world. All of those things are recorded. And then once we reach a certain age where we really start to develop critical thinking skills, I think that's where the trauma really begins to affect us, because we're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. We start to compare to people who maybe have what we perceive as a better upbringing. Maybe it's a socioeconomic difference that we notice. And we say, well, why do they have things that we don't have? Why does he have his father and I don't? Why does his mother bake the cookies and she's in the PTA and mine is struggling to figure these things out? Trauma starts early, and so just to open the conversation, I would just say trauma is really what we record as our human tape recording selves. From the age of just say birth to about 5 or 6, when we really break into our consciousness, and then we start to notice the differences in the world, and we start asking ourselves questions like, why not me? Or why me?
That's beautiful. Very well said.
Trauma is like you said, it's downloaded into your cell memory. Like not only the trauma that you experienced personally, but the trauma that your ancestors, like it's literally passed on through your genetics, and it's in your cell memory. So when you have trauma, it unlocks, trauma from other generations.
Yes.
Very well said. That's post-traumatic slave syndrome is what Gene is referencing. I mean, really on the same level of PTSD. It doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. And I would say that's because that's relevant in the Black and the brown community, and we don't get that kind of recognition. But it is real. It is real. And I think there's no one better here to kind of speak to that than Miss Stephanie, because she deals with kind of the back end of that. It's an outlet for people to become bullies when they experience different trauma. So, Miss Stephanie, speak into childhood trauma and then into bullying.
To overcome victims
Go
of.
ahead, Gene.
No, I was just saying overcome victims of bullying.
Yeah. Yeah. So bullying starts as early as toddlers. People don't think of it like that, but when toddlers are pushing, hitting, biting because somebody took their toy, that's physical bullying. So
Hmm.
bullying starts then, and they don't understand what's going on, but the adults are supposed to help them and train them and teach them and to get them out of that, because they have no idea. Just like, somebody walk up to us and hit us, we're going to hit them back. What's the problem? So that's their natural reaction, is to take back whatever, and to get it back however, by pushing, kicking, biting. Um, and so trauma, like y'all said, can be generational. It starts with other generations. It can start with us, but then it also has to stop with us.
Exactly.
It only stops with us by choice. I realize this is what's happening in my life. This is painful. I don't want this. So then you have to make a choice. Do I want to continue this, or do I want to change it? If you want to change it, you first have to acknowledge that it is a thing. You know,
Hmm.
just like, Gene uses the analogy of alcohol. If you're an alcoholic, first you have to acknowledge that you are an alcoholic, and then you can start getting help. But first you have to admit that whatever it is that's wrong is a thing, and that you don't want it. So basically, you have your hands closed,
Hmm.
just having that one thing. And then when you choose to open your hand, then you can let that go and receive something better.
Right.
So,
That's so good.
yeah.
That's so
So
good.
trauma is a really tough thing, but it has to be acknowledged uh, at all times. So it's about acknowledging your feelings, what you're feeling, whether you want it or not. Um, and so that's pretty much what I have to say about trauma. It's a very strong and powerful, takes a very strong and powerful hold on your life.
Yeah, and I appreciate the stance that you and Gene take on your show, where you're addressing that. And I agree to the point, several points you made, that it's modeled. I mean, you're not born a bully.
Right.
Children experience trauma, but even at a young age, they don't understand that, and their outlets are the outlets that they've seen that have been
Right.
modeled before them.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with you that it's generational, and it just takes one person. I don't think people realize that when situations happen, stimuli, external situations happen, there's two choices to be made.
Yeah.
Right.
You have the choice to do the right thing, you have the choice to do the wrong thing. You have the choice to grow bitter from that situation, or the choice to grow better from that
Right.
situation. So, it's all about the choices that we make.
Hey,
Mark.
Coach, yeah, Coach, you have popped in, as you know, I would do, particularly on this show and everything, because you kind of alluded to it, and actually, definitely Gene alluded to it as well, because as y'all know, sometimes I'm coming at you from the home studio, but sometimes I'm also coming at you from the Hayti Heritage Center, which is our cultural arts center here in Durham, and we have a big stained glass mural of Mr. Duke, of the Duke family and everything. So sometimes it can be that historical trauma, because I can tell you all right now that his mural is bigger than that of the two of Jesus Christ himself and everything. They're in the same old
Wow.
historical church building. So yeah, that was like one of those moments of uh, kind of historical trauma that a lot of people think about, is that when you came and entered the church, not the entrance as it is now, but where the entrance used to be, the first image you would see would be this very tall patriarch of the white community staring at you, even more so than that of Jesus Christ himself and everything. So, AL, is just wanted your take on that, because that's not just a Durham, North Carolina, because that's where I'm based at thing, but we see it in a number of places as well, where there are these historical symbols. I mean, the Son of Sam statue that existed at UNC that they took down, and a number of these other Confederate things that are part of the historical
Mm,
trauma element that we also face.
Mm,
mm.
that
But,
is
but before you hit that, AL, look at what Mark just spun. We talked about earlier. He talked about, and all of what he said, he addressed childhood trauma, race-related trauma, probably going to be some self-inflicted trauma in there, and probably spiritual trauma from a church standpoint. But Ahel, go ahead and attack that.
No, I love that point. I love that point. I believe we become what we see, right? And so, as he alluded to, seeing the white Jesus, so to speak, and saying, well, the epitome of who we're striving to be does not look like me. And
Right.
then when I see someone who looks like me portrayed in history, they're in chains and shackles, getting beat, picking cotton, all these different things. And then if we even bring it to the present day, unless you grew up in a neighborhood that was well to do, just look at, so we're here in Kansas City, Missouri. There's a stark difference between east of Troost and west of Troost. Like that's our
Right.
dividing line. And
Right.
so,
Literally.
if you go, if you go on the east side of Troost, you're like, okay, I'm kind of in the hood. As soon as you cross, it's literally state line. You cross Troost, going to state line, it's like night and day. Right. And so when you grow up in an area, and I call it mental blight, it's just a term that I come up with, it creates a form of mental blight because you grow up around dilapidated buildings, run down neighborhoods. You hear gunshots all the time. You hear police sirens all the time. You're around people who have experienced, early death due to murder, crime, violence, all these different things. And so you actually internalize that. And because you are there, that is your state of existence. You
That's right.
internalize it in a way that says, this is who I am. And then it's reinforced through the music. It's reinforced through what you decide to watch on television. And so we
Mm,
have all these negative reinforcements and very few positive reinforcements. Everything that we see that's positive looks exactly the opposite of us, and it comes from the other side of town. And so you begin to, over time, say that that's not me, right? So you see the nice neighborhoods. Whenever I don't know about you, Gary, but growing up in Kansas City, you go out to Overland Park and you go to Oak Park Mall, you see a completely different,
it's a whole
beautiful
new world.
stores,
Right.
beautiful buildings, all these things, but you don't see a lot of people that look like you,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's not what you
Right.
see day to day. And so I believe that we really do become what we see, and that's why it's so important for us to, during that early stage, when our children are growing up, expose them to as much as possible. That shows them something different that they can be more, have more, and do more. Because if not, then they literally fall into this trap of becoming exactly what it is that they see on a regular basis.
Right. Which is done intentionally. Did you guys are in this space because you're boots on the ground type of business or organization. You said 501c3. So speak to this for us. What does that look like from your perspective?
Well, let me. So we also our business. So our foundation or our nonprofit deals with financial literacy, but our business that pays the bills is we're loan brokers.
Okay.
So as dealing with business owners and real estate investors. So of course, a large percentage of those who come through as leads or prospects or from our community. And unfortunately, many of them are not prepared. Many of them have not had that foundation of support
Exactly.
teaching, financial literacy, the importance of credit. And all that they've seen is maybe they've seen something on social media or they've watched one of these reality shows and they're like, all right, I'm ready to start a business. I have this idea and I want to do this. So a lot of times I have to, initially there's a level of frustration on my part because I'm like, damn, I won't be able to close this deal. But the other part is a level of empathy because I'm like, well, I know why they can't. So I need to
Take a step back.
take a step back, get out of my feelings, and more so look at what can I offer as advice? How can I be a solution? And whereas I'm not overextending us, because if it's somebody from social media, a lot of times they're like, man, I love the relationship that you have, you and your wife, and I want to be mentored, and I have to figure out a way to offer it without overextending. So a lot of times it's like, all right, you can do this, but you can't do it right now.
Right. Right.
So it's like, in order to get here, there's some things that you have to do. And you have to be willing to put in those steps. And unfortunately, there are those who are like, well, this guy said if I send him some money on IG that I could do it in 90 days. And then we have the situation where if they come back, you were right.
Mm.
But they don't
And
have anything.
Right.
One of
It
the
just
things, yeah, I wanted to annotate a couple of things that Terrence said. It's not just the people who come to us, and why we had to shift our focus is where a lot of the, at least for me, the trauma. Let me clarify: I'm not the broker; he's the broker. I'm the marketing and operations lady.
I
So,
just see partnership there, sis.
yeah. Because the reason why, because people start asking me questions, and I'm like, that is not my forte. Don't get me wrong, I'm an
So you
investor.
just pass the ball on. That's all.
Right.
Just,
I
excuse me, let me pass.
Right.
Pass the ball on over there.
Right. So, but as with like, it wasn't just like on the side of, the people coming to us being uninformed, like trauma, especially within. I don't want to just label it financial trauma because it goes so much deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
However, just to make sure it is clearly defined what we're talking about. But we had reluctancies on the logo show a black man on there. The picture on LinkedIn, let's switch it. You're not smiling. You have to be smiling. You have to be perceived as friendly.
Oh my God, that's
When
good.
you talk, are you standing on your feet and are you smiling? So I'm not saying that what we thought was going to happen was actually the reality, but the fact that we had to think about it. And I don't, some of the
extra step.
Right, the extra stuff, and I don't think people who have not come up the way that we've come up. All of us have like a shared identity to an extent, is because we are people of color. But I don't know if white business owners have to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have to think
I
about.
think you know the answer to that question.
You know the answer is they don't.
Right. Like, does their name sound too ethnic? And another market that's opened up to us, and we really going to push it, is the immigrant market.
Yes.
And that Terrence has gotten a lot of them, and I think you've said it has been echoed across the board. One of their frustrations is them being mistreated, talking down on, using language that they don't understand, or assuming they don't understand something, and talking to them, being condescending.
That's right there. Good. Wow.
Right. So so we were like, okay, so this is a really good market, because we can relate, to those things. But I don't like, so that's something. Even now, like, we're about to launch some YouTube ads or whatever, because we were running straight Google PPC ads, which are expensive as hell.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of that came from my own. I'm actually processing some stuff when I realized what we spent, and we hadn't closed anything, which is weird for us, but I was talking to my ads guy, and I was like, he's a white guy, and I didn't say it, but he got it, and I was like, should we take the logo off with the picture? And I could see him working it out in his eyes, and he was like, nah, I don't think we need to do that. That's how he said it, and he was right. Now we do notice, like, the majority of people that come in, they are Black, Hispanic, or an Egyptian, just anything, but who we get the least are white women. And the white women that Terrence has, they were either extremely Karenish, or they were just, excuse my language, like the bottom of the, it's in terms of what, of them actually being a real prospect, not them personally, but yeah.
Right.
So,
so it was no in between. Almost, it was like either the extreme
highs and lows.
Yeah,
nothing in between, which is a great mirror of what our American society looks like.
Hey, Coach G, along those same lines, and because as y'all were talking, I was thinking about something that deals with trauma as well. And I'd definitely love to hear from Dee and Terrence's thoughts about this, because like I said, I'm down here in Durham, North Carolina, which is in the southeast and everything, and I know that there sounds like on the West Coast and all along those lines, but we've got a very much gentrification and downtown development and everything right here in this city, which is a small city, and I'm sure that they also exist in Kansas City and Los Angeles and other places. So I'm wondering about the trauma that we're imposing on our kids, because one thing my younger brother does is he works with, and I even hate using this term, and I've said this several times on this show and other shows, the term, but it is used, at-risk youth. And I'm wondering if you go by a neighborhood that you used to live in, and now you're seeing the neighborhood being very fancified, for lack of a better term, and everything, what that does in terms of a new trauma to our kids, because a lot of kids are joining gangs because they're trying to find a new family, and all along those lines, they're feeling like their own family isn't actually addressing whatever their needs are, which is why they're joining the Bloods and the Crips, and we've even got that problem here in North Carolina as well. So with them joining gangs, not saying
Right.
specifically which gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd
we
say
live in Inglewood. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was like, yeah, we live in Inglewood, and people were talking about the gentrification. I didn't have context because I didn't live here, but I've been here for the last 7 years, and rent has more than doubled.
Yeah.
Yes, it's close to.
I just watched the report on the news yesterday.
Yes, I just got a letter from my landlord that he's going up again on us for rent. And the thing about it is, we want to buy out here, and that's the goal, and we're getting towards that. But we are currently priced out. You have to make an average of $291,000 a year to be able to afford to buy a house in Los Angeles. Right. And it's ridiculous. Everybody has their opinions about this. So, and where I worked, I was never used to being the minority in my workspace. It was always majority Black. Out here, it was completely opposite, and it was a culture shock.
A big culture.
Yeah, it was a culture shock. Even Terrence and I both we had ride share jobs, and one of them is called Hop Skip Drive, and it's like an Uber for kids. So you basically pick up kids from school, drop them off, and all that. So you're right. It's the neighborhoods and the worlds that it took us in. Like we were in Bel Air, and we were in all of these places
that's gated that you can't just drive up to just to you have to know the code, and you have to have
the security's gonna come out,
clearance, and show your ID, and
right. And
but the different kids, so the children who their parents paid for the service, then the children who were in a program,
which is on our side of town.
On our side of town. Right. So the Black kids who were under a program, and the differences, and the difference in how they processed information, like the white kids or the affluent kids, their parents walking them to the car and seeing them off, and the Black kid.
Well, it was some Black affluent kids
jumping in the car probably by themselves.
Well, no, I was getting to that. No, I said black, white. Then I said and affluent.
Oh, okay.
And affluent. But
well, I'm sorry.
No, seeing the difference.
It's awesome how we've just organically pivoted into financial trauma, and I would even say race-related trauma. So, Stephanie, from your perspective, from what you're hearing in this conversation, what are you thinking? How are you feeling about this?
Well, I was listening to what De'Ara was saying, and I hear and I know that our financial trauma comes from our mindset, the way that we and you've already said it before, that the way we were raised, the way we were made to think, I mean, and the words that we speak, the words that we're spoken, I'm broke as a joke, and other things that that's not even coming to mind right now, that we just speak poverty, we speak broke, we speak, not having enough, but not saying that, just saying it in ways that, that put us in that place, because people don't realize how powerful words are. Right. Some people do realize how powerful they are, but don't know how to change them. So it has a lot to do with mindset. And it is very hard to see how, like y'all were talking about, you driving and taking these kids here and seeing how, how the different races respond, differently, and it has a lot to do with, and I just have to say it again, mindset. I mean, we have to choose a different mindset, but first, see where we are, acknowledge that, and then want to move from that. But it's really hard to know, about the financial trauma and all the different traumas that we have, and not knowing what to do,
Right. Yeah. AL, this is your space. You are the expert in the room because your boots on the ground in this particular space. So I know you're chomping at the bit here.
Oh no, you guys said a lot. I don't even know where to start. But one of the things Mrs. Lewis said, relating to it made me think of imposter syndrome. Because I actually have the exact same thing. So it's like, I'm starting my business. I'm wanting to advertise. I'm as about as as black as you can get. And so it's like, do I put my picture? Do I get, a bottle or something like that?
And this is Black Hulk, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, it's
His
a
book.
real. Here he goes, man.
This is
No,
Black Hulk talking right now.
yeah, I don't know about all that, G, but
Anyway, go ahead, bro.
but no, that imposter syndrome is real because and this is
Yes.
all financial trauma, and so we are a powerful people. We are smart. We're intelligent. We're studious. We're hardworking. We built the country. But then when we get into these high-rise buildings and these corporate spaces, we feel like I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here.
Yep.
Like, do I need to look differently? Do I need to smile differently? Do I need to change my vernacular, my vocabulary, the words that I use, my posture? It just makes you second guess everything that comes natural to you.
Right.
Yep.
And so there's another point that brought up to me. There was something that Gene said earlier. I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Gene said something that was really good as well about the gentrification. So all this ties in together because when you do see your old neighborhood gentrified, it almost gives you this thought process of like, why wasn't it good enough to fix these things when I was here? Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, no, this is how you're supposed to live. But Karen and Kent, they're coming over, so now we got to fix it up and make it look real nice and pretty because that's what they deserve, right?
Right.
And so it reminds me, there was a video. You guys probably have seen it at some point, but it was How to Sell the Negro. Bob Johnson, he was the publisher of, I believe it was Ebony or Jet magazine. And so what they did was a study on literally how to sell black people, because at the time we were starting to come into money. And this plays out all the way to today, how we get money, but we spend the money really, really quickly. We don't say we're the biggest consumers. We don't produce, we consume. And so it was showing that literally a black man can go into a store. There could be two different ties, completely identical. One of them, I'm just going to throw out a number, it costs $20. The other one costs $50. Which one are we going to go for?
The 50.
The $50 one, just like we're going for those $299 Trump sneakers.
Yeah, just like we got to have the J's for $200 or $300. We have to do all of these things to make ourselves feel worthy. And so when you talk about gentrification, why didn't the neighborhood look like this when I was there? And then you talk about imposter syndrome. Am I even supposed to be here? Now I'm making a little money instead of the first thing that we do being, generational wealth, like investing in real estate or purchasing life insurance. We're trying to purchase things to cover ourselves to feel worthy of the spaces that we're in. And so you guys all said some great things. And so I just wanted to touch on each of those a little bit.
I appreciate that.
Well, I want to jump back to Gene though, because I knew you were on fire about this.
I wanted to add to that. So one of the things that we don't have on this list that I think is a major thing is historical trauma. We have a history fed to us about people which is manufactured greatly, and then our history is extricated from the books. And I mean, you got to think about the fact that before the European takeover, I guess you could say, it was Moorish. There were people who looked like us who ran the world. We're the ones who, created astrology and math and all of those things. And now it's like the first thing you hear in education in our history is the slave trade. Like that's where we started. But there's so much history before that they intentionally keep out of our hands, so that we go back to the mindset, the imposter syndrome, I'm destined to be a slave, or always just a slave mentality across the board. So I think that's a trauma that we don't talk about a lot.
We don't talk about that, but Gene, in that same level and everything, there was actually one of our whistle stop tours that was here earlier because it's a family having a reunion. So they gave the tour. And one of the things that a good friend of mine, Angel Dozier, brought up was what you just said, which is that if we study the history of any of the Black Wall Streets, it can be the one in Tulsa, it can be the ones that y'all had over there in Kansas City, and definitely the ones around Memphis and other places. There are a lot of the things that we built, we would have everything that we needed within our community, because it's actually one of the things that Angel brought up was that literally the dollar circulated not one, not two, but 27 times in our community before it left and everything. Whereas now it barely stays a second
20,
in our hands and it's
25
gone.
minutes. The
Yeah.
latest stat was 25 minutes.
No, so imagine that 27 times circulating in our businesses versus what you just said about 25 minutes and everything. So
Staggering stat.
that is a vast difference in everything.
Yeah, that reminds me of there's a saying. I'm probably butchering it, but it's basically history is written by the conqueror, whoever won the
Yeah.
war. And so when you just look at it's literally his story. And so the hope is that we can create our story. Like we can start new, we can start fresh, and we can begin developing our own history. Because, like Gene said, if we leave it up to him, so to speak, we just started off as slaves. Like we were just like God created us, and we were slaves, and that's it. And any upward mobility that we've gained over the years has been, through the help of someone other than ourselves and our own resilience. And so we really do have to start looking at what it takes to create our own story and understanding that we do have that control.
That's powerful. And Gene, I want to hear from your queen, because I know she's experienced childhood trauma. She's experienced financial trauma, race-related trauma, and I think when she finishes, Miss Stephanie, if you don't mind jumping and leading us, an outcome of this trauma, I would say, would be self-inflicted trauma. That we get so frustrated that we can't do anything with the externals that we now turn in on ourselves. So,
Coach,
um,
Coach,
And I
before,
just wrote that down too. But I'll
I,
Coach
talk about it after Danica.
yeah, Coach G,
okay.
before y'all go there, because I was going to add one more, and I'd love to hear Gene's thoughts about this, because there's another trauma we haven't talked about, and then I'm going to jump off camera because I've got to get ready to go to another meeting, but I'll still maintain as I did when AO was there and everything the last time and everything along those lines. But another trauma that I don't think we talk about enough, Gene, is cultural trauma, because we know a lot of people are trying to co-opt our businesses, our music, and I'd love to hear both your thoughts, Gene, as well as your other half thoughts, because I know that even if we think about R&B, funk, and a lot of the music that were originally ours, they're now being co-opted by other communities and everything. So to me, that is a form of cultural trauma. But I'd love to hear folks' thoughts on that.
We actually talk about that often as far as it relates to the music.
I knew you had fire in your mouth, sis.
I
I knew
got
you had the fire
my
in your mouth, so go
issues,
ahead, release it.
my issues with it. There's a part of me that thinks that our people kind of dropped the ball. Like no one is trying in mainstream. I'll say that because I would be lying if I said that there are a lot of these underground bands that we listen to that have decided to take the music back, and even Beyonce, for example, did country music, and so all these black people now that no one had ever heard of
We're
are
coming forward.
coming forward with music that the majority of the world would say is white music, and we're like, no, y'all don't like country because you think it's white. No, that's ours. That is ours. So I said all of that to say now you have all these British artists coming out with Motown stack sounding music, and it's just the most beautiful thing that they have ever heard, and they're getting all of these awards. And I'm not saying they're not great. I'm not saying that. I just
And it's also K-pop.
it's
And you rarely hear them give
disheartening
credit to where it came
sometimes,
from.
Right, right. You rarely hear the
I'm sorry,
originator
what'd you
being.
say?
You just rarely hear them give credit to where it came from.
Yeah.
And I can't say that they do.
Okay.
It's not them that don't give us the credit. It's us that does not do that. It's like for some reason there's this divide now. I was asking him the other day. I was like, where are the male groups that, the new male groups?
Mm-hmm.
The new female bands, where are they? Like everybody, go solo, sure, but
Yeah, we become
where's your
we
group at? You know, nobody does that. It's all these egos that get in the way. So that's, you know, that
we bought into the American
pretty
culture.
traumatic within itself, you know.
Yeah, we bought
Mm.
into the American culture. Stephanie,
So
self-inflicted trauma.
before I do the self-inflicted, I want to add to what Danica just
Sure,
said.
sure.
So when it comes to the music, something that I just found out driving to Memphis about a month ago or a little over. Um, Listening to, knowing how people, take other people's music or buy it or however it's obtained. You hear the same music, repeated, and maybe the lyrics change. For example, with Etta James, I was listening to her song I'd Rather Be Blind, and it is the exact music of Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Wow.
so I was like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, that's just one example. There's so many others, and we know that, and then I work with people and we're able to listen to music at work. And then hearing the 40-year-olds playing, the 60s and 50s music. And, it's just, it's just something how all of this, and especially if they're white, I say white and black and not Caucasian and African American, all the same thing. But um, listening to, the white people in their 40s listening to these 50s and 60s music and Motown music, and you got your whole Motown music station. So I mean, how much they love, that kind of music. And it just baffles me. So I wanted to add that about music, because we
Good.
know, without repeating, how some music is obtained.
Yeah.
Um, so
Danica brought out some very powerful points.
she
Yeah.
did, she did. So three things I've been hearing a lot in this conversation. Self-bullying is one. We haven't used that word, but self-bullying, how we take on, we have the imposter syndrome. Our mindset is, messed up concerning some things, depending on how, we were raised or how we were made to think, however that came about. Um, and then, self-bullying. So we're humiliated and put down, insulted by other people. And then we take on those things, those thoughts, and we already
Mindset.
have our own
Mhm.
thoughts, yeah, about ourselves and the things that we've experienced. And so, those things can really be traumatic to us, because not only am I living and thinking the way I live and think, now I'm adding your thoughts, and so all of that is, more trauma, added to the trauma that we already experienced.
Layers
um
of trauma. Right.
yes. um and again, it's so important, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, it's so important to, realize, this is what it is, and then doing something about it. So, and we may not know what to do about it, exactly what to do about it, but we can decide, that this is not working. And if we're doing the same thing, expecting something different, we all know that that's called insanity. So, you know, um, it's trauma, acknowledging it and wanting to do something about it, wanting to make a change is huge. And I experience that more and more um, in my life. So that's all I want to say. So somebody else can talk.
No, that was great, Stephanie. So I was going to pivot over to D. Where does that land with you guys in that space? Great stuff, Miss Stephanie.
Thank you.
Um, you want to go first?
Sure, sure. So going back to
There you go with the pass. We just watched it live. We watched the pass live.
hey, we're a team. Teamwork make the
Right,
dream.
right, right.
You know?
I love it. I love it.
Going back to the part about being spenders and not savers and dealing with history, I think back to Carter G. Woodson's book, The Miseducation of the Negro. He spoke about this family, or he gave this the story about this family that were dirt poor. They only had like one eating utensil that they shared, but they had a piano that was expensive as a sign of status, instead of the thing that they would need, just a fork or a spoon.
Some plates.
And something else, another story he mentioned was how Black people will spend their money and go to white institutions to learn how to work in their businesses to make them successful, and immigrants will come to America and pick up a cart and just sell bananas and become successful. And how there are things that, like the programming, and how a lot of things that we look at now or in our current situations, we don't realize it's nothing new. These were things that were talked about. His book it was written in the 1930s, or published in the 1930s. But if you read it, you'll think that he's talking about something like right now.
I want to also add to that, like,
good pass.
There's this no. There's this thing about, and Jay-Z talked about this. I know he did an interview with Oprah some years ago. He was like, kids have to be able to see it. They have to be able to touch it. They have to be able to know that it's real. And it's something I never forgot, but I didn't really understand, honestly, until I moved out here, because I'm an actress, writer, singer. I'm in the arts. And so I'm on the grounds in LA, and like there's this thing going around, like a Memphis 10 is the Los Angeles 5 and all of that stuff. And it's, so we were just talking about it. And I remember people telling me, oh, De'Ara, to be a working actress in California, it's a different kind of pretty, it's a different kind of fun and all of that, right? So I'm just saying, like, this is the closest I've ever been to, like, I'm working in the industry, and some people, their lowest is like $100,000 a year in LA in the business, So when they say poor, they ain't saying broke or poor for real.
What we're talking about, right?
Right. And I didn't really.
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride, exactly.
Father
like
of the Bride is the perfect example.
Like, and that's one of my favorite movies. But my sister and I, we talk. And apparently, it's a big thing. Like, if you go to Reddit and stuff, they talk about this. How much did the wedding cost?
Right.
Because that was the whole thing about like their struggle was something that, to me, that's like Princess Gold or whatever. So being out here, and I'm able to see people who are working class, who have that is a totally different definition out here than what it is, where I'm from. Like, people out here who are struggling, probably getting assistance, you tell them, hey, the rent is going to be $2,000. Okay, cool. I can do that. I thought you were going to say $2,500. So that's just so like for me, being out here, seeing what they look, and not just in the artist space, in the hustle entrepreneurial space as well, because literally out here, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Right.
So,
hey, D, just really quickly, as I said, I've got to pop off, and I know the show's getting ready to wind down anyway. I'm getting ready to go to a meeting, with the podcast and network people and everything. But that's one of the things that we talk about, even talk about that trauma that you're talking about. Because one of the things that local people say in Durham, when they see the buildings being built, they know that the buildings aren't being built for us from here and everything, because the rents that are being charged are expensive for the people here, but they're nothing for the people out in that are coming from Los Angeles and New York. So the feeling is that they're actually building these buildings, and they're charging a certain amount of money that is probably outside of the range of what a person in the Southeast can afford, but it's nothing for somebody that's coming from LA or New York, because y'all are used to paying $100,000 rent. So if you get like a $30,000 rent, you're going like, hey, that's nothing, because it's a whole different mindset.
But it drives up the prices for people. That's what's going on in Memphis, Tennessee,
right?
As
exactly.
Well. Yeah, it drives up the prices in. But yeah, it's like it's nothing. Like, we were like, man, you see, like, oh my God, if we can get a mortgage of no more than $850 a month, because I have rental property, and that's, it's less than that. Now we're like, oh my God, babe, we'll be able to get this house, and the mortgage only $5,000 a month.
We were actually just having this talk yesterday, walking our dogs.
Yeah,
only $5,000 a month.
Yeah,
wow.
Only $5,000 per million is $5,000. It's like, oh my God, we can. Yeah, we work really hard, but yeah, We've never touched that. We don't know what that feels like. So
But-
yeah, it's a
but-
lot of trauma that I personally have to work through on that.
And then for me, so I lived in New Orleans prior to moving to Memphis, and I lived in Memphis for 13 years. So I lived in the South all my life. So lived in two cities, majority black. Moved out here in 2018, and I looked up the stats and found out Los Angeles, it was like 2% black. And to just navigate, and you go places and you see the majority Hispanic, if not another ethnic group, and then the different Hispanic groups. So not just Mexicans, but you got Mexicans and these other Guatemalans and so on and so on and so on. And then you see a black person and like, hey, how you doing? And
Right.
like, why are you talking to me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I'm not used to that.
Mhm.
And then you.
So
you
would
get
that be defined as like a cultural shock for you? Is that
it was an extreme culture shock.
yeah,
To be
that was my
somewhere where we are the
experience.
minority, I'm not used to that.
Right.
And in a place like Inglewood, that was majority black, and you see more Hispanic and more white in the area. And then when you do see black people, the different types of black people, and not understanding gang culture and things like that, for me is like there were those parts that was scary. And when I was doing ride share, two Hispanic people asking me on different occasions about my affiliation with a certain gang, if I was affiliated with, then they named a specific gang both incidents. And both times I had to make sure that I stressed I am square. I'm not I don't know nothing about, like, one person, I had a red jacket and they were like, hey, your blood. And I was like, no. And I told De'Ara, she was like, well, you're not wearing that jacket anymore. Then one guy, he asked me, was I ate trade, something I had never heard of. But what it was, his brother had been killed earlier that day. So if I said the wrong thing, that could have been fatal.
Trigger him.
But I had to let him know. I'm square. I'm moved here from Memphis. I lived in New Orleans. I'm not no type of affiliation. I don't even know what A-Tray is.
Right.
And those fears, but all in all, I'm happy we're here, but it's a different lifestyle, a different environment that I'm used to.
Well, this has been such a powerful conversation. I do want to hit, as we close, on, I think, one that we haven't even touched on, that encompasses all of what we've talked about today, which is spiritual trauma. Exploring the concepts of spiritual trauma and its effects on our beliefs. We talked about mindsets, but the effects it has on our beliefs and our practices. So, if everybody go around the room and briefly kind of share on that in closing, what you think on that. The church traditionally has been the pillar of the Black community, the Black and the brown community, but it's no longer that for various reasons, which we don't have time, especially here at the end, to dive into. But what are the ramifications of the spiritual trauma that we've experienced? Because, again, as I say, it used to be the pillar. Now, church hurt is so prevalent in our society that the church was where we ran to, and now when we run to that, it's the church that's hurting us. So, spiritual trauma, from your perspective, in closing, everyone, I just say, let's start with you, AL. Let's go to Miss Stephanie and D and you guys, and then Gene, you close us out, brother.
So spiritual trauma, I would say, it comes from elevating people instead of God, and it creates a situation where we expect perfection out of people. We have pastors that are self-aggrandizing. It's all about them and their movement. One thing I say a lot, I think we have way too many churches. Like, when you go to the hood, there's a church on every corner. And so it alludes to a lot of the competition that we see. And so we're told to collaborate and not be competitive. But if the church is supposed to be our model,
is that the way that we're in?
Yeah, that is ironically.
Ironically, that's the play that we're in.
That's right. That's right. But yeah. I mean, it literally shows this competition, and then we're expecting perfection out of imperfect people. So then we see all these scandals with the ministers and them
Hmm.
stepping out on their wives, and then it's highly publicized. We see, people who are embezzling money from the church and using it for their own endeavors, and so. Yeah, there's a ton of spiritual trauma. It's if we look at from say the 80s till now, there's been a big movement away from the church and from faith in general.
Yeah.
And it's because of those things, in my opinion.
Yeah. The stats are staggering. And to your point, the stats are staggering that a young person, especially this generation that's coming up, we're losing in masses. That I think it's 90% of, I would say, Christianized students that go off to college come back not wanting anything to do or wanting to have any kind of relationship with God. So as a minister, that's a staggering stack, and we're losing ground rapidly. So, Miss Stephanie, what's your view on that?
So my view on it is that first of all, we are spirits living in these physical bodies,
Come on, sis.
um, and when we're hurt, we have high expectations of spirituality, or those that are above us in spiritual um, positions, and so when we are disappointed or discouraged, by things that are said or by things that are done, it really affects us. And so it negatively affects us because of the expectations that we have. So it's so important to not look to people. Like you said, AL, it's so important to not look to people and to be, I'm going to make it short, to be empathetic, to be willing to forgive people, which is something that's so hard. So we have to be empathetic to people. We have to, um, it's just so important. I mean, there's so many things that are going through my mind right now, but um, those are things that we have to be willing to do because none of us are perfect, and so
Amen.
we have expectations from different people for different reasons, for different things. And so dropping the expectations, and not putting labels on people because of, how they're doing or how they're responding, but dealing with our own self, dealing, Mark, we can hear you,
Oh,
but dealing with things that are dealing with things in a better way, in a loving and caring way.
Right. And the word is clear on that, not to put our trust in man because
Yes.
he will fail us not one time, two times, 10 times, but every time.
Yes.
So D, you guys pass the ball back and forth there. What's your feeling on this?
Well, I would say when I
Look at her going first.
Yay!
Come on, girl. Come on.
got it down to a rhythm because we've done so many interviews together. But I think about spirit. I learned about like the origin of the word is breath, and so we talk about trauma. Trauma
Exactly.
is wound, and so there's a wound to the breath, and so I would interpret as not being able to properly breathe. When you can't breathe, you can't live.
Mm. Oh, come
It
on.
it affects every organ in the body.
Oh,
You know,
so rich.
That
yeah.
is good.
So when I think about that, and like, I mean, those are the ramifications, solutions, whatever they look like, I would say to heal so one can breathe
Hmm.
and to breathe is, and to live in a more direct way. I think all of us can cut ourselves some slack as well.
That's
Oh, that's so good. So
Because
good.
I mean, as far as I have a saying that, death must not be so bad nobody's come back to complain about it. And so, we don't know. People have their different opinions about whether or not this is our first time on this plane or our multiple times. But as of right now, this is all there is.
Right.
And so, something I'm learning from myself is just to cut myself some slack, be more forgiving to myself, and breathe in the truest sense of the word of spirit, and with that, everything else flows.
Oh, that's so good, girl. So good.
Yeah.
I don't know how you gonna top that one, brother. Woo!
Hey, look, I I
Oh, that was so good.
totally support, and I think what helped our relationship, our marriage, well, what helped our relationship, what led to our marriage is that we found common ground. And where we didn't, we took the time to listen to each other. So for me, growing up in the church and then being introduced to the autobiography of Malcolm X uh, as a teen in church, I grappled with a lot of, like, my thoughts and ideas. Like, was I supposed to join the Nation of Islam? Was I blah, blah, blah? But
We all
I had that foundation which helped me. And for me, I'm thankful for that foundation, and I'm thankful for having the vision to look at other paths. So, piggybacking on what my wife said is being in a moment, being uh, cutting myself slack
Mm,
and not expecting more of others than I expect of myself.
man, that's
With
good,
that,
bro. Yeah, your queen brought that, boy. She spit some
oh
fire.
yeah, oh yeah,
She
oh yeah,
spit some straight fire right there.
she
So yeah,
did.
Gene and Danica, again, we're up against the clock, but close us out on your space where you're feeling in this space.
It's weird that that came up because my sister and I just about an hour ago had a brief text message about um, when we were on we were seeking truth. All three of us, all me and my two sisters, but we didn't know it. We were around, well, not around the same age, but around the same time. That's what we were doing, and definitely what we realized is if you um, go a different path than your family, it can be quite traumatic.
Right, right.
And it got traumatic for a while. For a few years, it spilled over into other aspects of people in our family. It was quite crazy, but what I have learned throughout all of this is that definitely time is healing. People get over it. They see things. They start to see things. You come to understand one another.
Mm-hmm.
You think this way, I think this way, but we still love each other. We still have each other's back. We're still gonna be empathetic toward one another, and it's I've learned that most religions operate on those basic principles: being kind to others, being kind to yourself, just that golden rule of do unto others.
Yeah, love
And
based out of love.
right, it's all about love. I don't care if you're Buddhist, I don't care if you're Christian, I don't care if you're just a so-called spiritual person. You could be an atheist, because I know so many who are the most loving people that I have ever met, but their spiritual path is just a bit different. But it brings us all back to that one thing, and that's what you said is love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they are supposed to operate in, as opposed to all this egotistical crap, money, status in the church. That's a big thing. Like you said, you have all these churches on every corner in impoverished areas. Why
Mm-hmm.
are there so many churches and this neighborhood is damn near dilapidated?
Yep.
So,
Fastest growing occupation.
right. So, and it's not just Baptist or Presbyterian, it's the Catholic Church, and all of those are around too. I think they may do a little more, and more ways than one. Let me shut up. No, I'm not gonna go there. But anyway, it all comes down to just being loving to yourself, authentic to yourself, and with others, and we'd be so much better if all that took place with everybody. If everybody.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for
Absolutely.
your contribution, brother. My brother,
Man, y'all,
close us
it's
out.
loaded. It's loaded. I don't even know what to say on top of that. Now, everybody dropped some gems, and I definitely appreciate it. One of the things I would say about spiritual trauma and healing from it is like recognizing in each person that you deal with is a unique version of the Creator. Each person that you see is God manifesting that in that person. And if we honor each other in that manner, then the world is going to get better. You heal trauma by realizing that we all have trauma. We all got our stuff that we got to deal with. And always being authentic in who you are, because a lot of these churches lead people astray by putting on a front. They put on the image. They put on a suit and, all of this stuff. They have that glossy thing, but they're not living it.
Mask,
so the deal
right.
is regardless of your spiritual practice, live it. Truly. Be authentic to that practice. If you're a Christian, God said love everybody, right?
Yep.
Let all of us let us be created and let us create them in our image. So we all are created in the image of the source. And when we honor that and we realize that and stop, I don't believe in a hierarchy. We all on the same level. We all are equal amounts of God manifest in this physical world. So and we all have different gifts. And the more we work together, as opposed to try to stand on someone's back to get myself higher, if we just stack our talents, our resources, our mindsets in a way that galvanizes us to just a higher connectiveness and community. Jesus Christ.
Spit it out, brother. Spit it out.
But we just need to spend more time on bettering ourselves, for one. When you perfect your vision, when you go from the light bulb vision to a laser vision as a person, then everyone around you becomes on that same vibration. What you attract and what you put out to the world is that same thing. So I say to heal spiritual trauma, realize that we are all unique versions of the Creator and treat each other the way you want to be treated.
Wow. Very well said.
Hey.
Man, what power-packed information from the panel here. I am blessed. I hope our audience was blessed from this. And I got to say thank you to AL and D and your husband. I forgot your name, sir. Terrence. Okay. Stephanie, Danica, and obviously my boy Gene. Man, what contribution in the space of trauma. And I know someone is blessed, even if we just helped one person today. I know we helped ourselves. Just us in this room have grown and healed just in this space of this room. So I'm thankful. I'm excited that we were able to do this together. And again, Gene and I just give great thanks to everybody that was available to come and make this such a powerful show. Hey, man, I see that. Yeah, I see that. I like that. I like that. Yeah, Terrence, you might have to do some of that too, bro. And my brother, he didn't hesitate.
She like, get off of me.
He didn't hesitate. He was like, "Come on here, girl."
This is a whole nother show theme now.
Right. Well, Mark's not here. Mark is the one that normally takes us to R and X ratings. So
we stayed about PG today. We were pretty good.
Right. We stayed PG today. So, but I want to thank everybody that was here. I know, Mark, if you're listening, you can definitely take us out and take us to our commercials. He is cracking me up, but hey, this has been your boy.
Yeah, there I go with everything. But y'all are talking junk about me. That ain't fair. Talking junk about me taking us to the R level and the X level just because I do that on occasion here and there and everything. But Facts are facts. I'm over here duking. Y'all over here talking junk about me and everything. But yes, I had moved from one location to the other, and y'all are talking junk about me, getting to meet with some of the Pod TV leadership and all along those lines. But yes, that was a great show, amazing show. They were even listening in the background and everything. So y'all did a great job as always, a spectacular job. And no, I did not have anything I was going to say about the relationship trauma, but I left that alone this time because yes,
Oh,
the
see,
relationship
here we
trauma
go.
can be some real trauma as well. Because what I was going to say
Gene.
that you wanted me to go, that you wanted me to go there, G.
Here we
And Coach
go.
G,
Here we
is yes,
go.
I am still in the age of 62 and still in that single space. So we know that that could be some serious trauma that goes on in that
And
relationship as
remember, we
well.
got
But
ladies in the house, Mark.
I'm not giving up hope. They might have some aunts and uncles. They might have some aunts for me. They might have some aunts and sisters for me. They might have somebody that's gonna bless me and everything. Because I'm not giving up hope just because I'm 62. They may have some abilities to give me hope even at 62. And you know, dad's 82 or 84, mom's 82, and they still got vibrance in their life and everything. So I'm not giving up hope just because I'm 62. So like I said, there is still hope for everybody. Even see, G's lady is saying yes, there's still hope, and I see that D's even agreeing that there could still be hope for me no matter what and everything. But yeah, I've had some relationship traumas which y'all didn't get into because relationship trauma can be a whole another game because sometimes you can go
That's a
down those
show all by
journeys
itself.
and everything. That's a whole other show.
Yeah. But if you look like AL and if you became the Black Hulk, then you wouldn't have any issues.
Look,
So that's what I got to
you
do.
don't see me booed up. So I think they got it on lock. Those brothers right there got it on lock. So,
Right.
hey, and then I'll say
So,
too, Mark. My mother got married at 71.
Oh.
okay, so there is still hope out there.
Happily
So there
married.
is still hope out there.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's a good thing to know. Still hope for
She
me.
got
I'm glad
married
to know
at
that. Thank you.
51 years old.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay. I thought you were saying 1971. I'm sorry, I had to work that out in my head. Like, what are we celebrating? Like, okay, yes. But that's good too if it was 1971.
Boy, we digress quickly.
You know, we digressing left and right, but that's okay. It could have been 71, it could have been 1971. But you're saying that at the age of 71, so I'm keeping that in mind. I did.
Yep.
Hey, but you know, I don't know how ladies feel about this, but I did see a very nice scientist type lady, but unfortunately, she is a little bit on the younger side because she came by because she's going to possibly use the rental building where I was at earlier, which I hate times also. It's also a rental facility, and she was also in like she was around 50. Just give y'all a hard time. So there's that age difference because she was around 50.
Oh, I told y'all we get
Now,
this
Coach,
brother
you
down this path.
satisfied?
What?
It doesn't matter.
I knew it was coming.
Get a number.
We opened
You
Pandora's
brought
box.
it.
Steph, he opened the door. He opened the door. I had to go there because he opened the door.
He did.
I was trying to say innocent and everything, but no, he had to open the door and all.
My bad. But I'm gonna close it. This has been Unbreakable Souls, Men Healing Through Strength, and we thank you for everybody that was here that supported our show today. What a powerful, packed show, and we're blessed for the contributions that you were able to give, and just excited that this is going to go out into space and bless other people. I did want to recognize Evie, the healer of Queens, spit in some comments out here for us too. So I just want to recognize that she was out there. She couldn't make it today, but she is powerful. We'll have her back on a different show. And Mark, take us out, my man.
Well, we think we're going to go out with a mental health, since a lot of this has been around mental health, and I think we'll go out with a couple of mental health PSAs because that seems like that would be very fitting for this particular show since this is what we've been dealing with. So let's go out with a little bit of mental health. Yep.
Throw that beautiful bean footage.
If you're watching this with your friends, you'll probably make a joke.
All right.
What happened?
What happened, Mark?
It's having a moment. That's what happens when you're in another location other than where you're supposed to be at. So let's try this one.
If you talk,
First come to shove, I might just have to do it the old-fashioned way.
if you talk, If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
If you're watching this with your friends, you'll probably make a joke.
Because you know what you feel on the inside
isn't what you want people to know.
If you have to pretend to be happy,
find someone you trust and tell them.
If you get mad at things and you don't know why, or have thoughts about hurting yourself,
find someone you trust and tell them.
You are never alone when you share.
Seriously, people care about you.
It's okay to not understand what you're feeling.
And it's easy to think that you're all alone.
But you don't have to be.
You're never alone when you share.
Don't be ashamed to tell someone you trust what you're feeling.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
Tell a parent.
Tell a teacher. Tell a brother or sister.
Or just tell a friend.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
It's how things get better.